Hello and welcome to Uilleann Pipering The Pavee Way. This documentary features leading Irish traveller musicians including Finbar Furey, Paddy Keenan, Mickey Dunne, Johnny Purcell and the late John Rooney, demonstrating their technique on uilleann pipes in the traveller style. It also includes comments from Blackie O'Connell and Martin Nolan on the impact Irish traveller music and musicians has had in mainstream music. This should be of particular interest to all traditional musicians, whatever the instrument, but uilleann pipers in particular. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
We can't think of any better man to help us understand that better than Mickey Dunne. Mickey, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Tommy. It's good to be up here.
Thanks very much for coming up, and Mickey, and we'll be coming back to Mickey in a second. But in the meantime, let's have a look at some aspects of the subject that we're going to discuss. Friends and admirers of the Dorns and their style have been celebrating the Dorn legacy every year in early spring since the year 2000.
Johnny and Felix were brothers. Johnny Dorn and Felix Dorn. But they played totally different. And you can hear in Felix's playing that he was used to playing with a fiddle player. Right. You can hear it, that he was comfortable with that. But whereas Johnny, nearly 99.9% of the time, he was a solo player. Johnny was doing stuff on pipes that people are only dreaming about today. He had a flowing style and a technique that very few people can do. He had something that people loved.
Johnny Dorn is one of the best, if not the best piper in the world known, you know what I mean, and the best player in the world. But I'm trying to take little things off it, like, you know, trying to take little tips off it and how to do this, and I'm doing this wrong, like, you know. And hopefully in a couple of years to come or a couple of months to come, I might be a piper.
Well, first I listened to my grandfather, and now I still listen to him. I pick up some of his notes, but there's no end to his music.
Johnny had a terrific style. I mean, I couldn't even get near where he did, you know. Like, when I was a kid, I used to try to play like him, you know, but it was just, you couldn't. He just had this beautiful lilt, you know. I can't describe when he played. That tone. And and that one. That one, yeah. And he had a high triplet, which was lovely. If you go. Yeah, I'll try.
Mickey Dunne has inherited much of the traveller piping and fiddling traditions from his father Paddy and his uncles Mick, Hanta and Christy, known collectively as the Blind Dunne Brothers.
If you created a sound on the street, especially with the regulator style that the Dorns had, I mean, you'd know that people would be instantly attracted to it. A lot of pipers in a lot of years, they very seldom use the regulators at all, you know, or else use them very sparingly. But you can hear it in the Dorns' music that it was part of the tune all the time. If you want me to give you an example, right? Like just one of the parts of Colonel Fraser, I'll just do a little bit of it. I'll play it the straight way first.
Okay.
Right? That's the way.
That's the ball standard.
That's probably the way it is written, but Johnny Dunne and travelling pipers would have played it like this. You would put in an extra 10, 15 notes.
Someone said to me before that the reason the travellers sound like they do is that it's pain and years on the road, and so that's something you can't teach. It's something that's innate in you, or something that you grow up with.
I have a feeling with settled playing that, and any good musician will do this, he'll plan the road he's going. I think with Dorn, he'd let rip. What am I playing? Rakish Paddy, away we go. And all of a sudden, he's behind the steering wheel and it's roller coaster, and we're sitting here in County Clare and I'm looking at a few bendy roads, and I could see Johnny musically flying around these roads. Oh, I think we go left here. Do you know what I mean? At the last minute, oh, that looks like an interesting road, I'll turn her into that one.
Paddy Keenan is a traveller piper who was greatly influenced by Johnny Dorn. He has developed his own unique style, which in turn has made a major impact on a new generation of pipers.
There's absolutely nothing he doesn't know about pipes. He knows them. You know, I described them one time to the lady as, you imagine the pipes were blown over him, you know?
Yeah, they're part of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can make him walk across the floor if you want to. It's just the absolute mastery.
He's the most natural player ever.
Yeah.
I think so. I'd put Paddy Keenan would be more Johnny Dorn, you know what I mean? And then John Rooney would be Felix, you know?
John Rooney and his son Larry Rooney. They were a great influence. Now, we only stayed with them for a couple of weeks, but I'll tell you, for them couple of weeks, amazing stuff. And John, he corrected me on the Boys of Blue Hills hornpipe. I was doing the triplet wrong, going up, and he took the card. Give me that, he said. And he corrected it and said, that's how you should play it, keep it that.
John Rooney, the patriarch of the Dorn Cash piping dynasty, was born in Crossmaglen, County Armagh in 1952 to Big John Rooney and Nan Dorn, daughter of Felix Dorn.
Thank God that the music didn't die, you know. Thank God John Rooney keeps it going, and fair play to the man, has been keeping it going along. If he didn't marry like Felix's daughter, maybe, who knows, I mightn't have played, no one might have played, the music might have been lost. And I'm going to say this, Felix's son Mikey, if Mikey Dorn played the pipes for 6 months, I'd say he'd be the best player on this earth. And he's got a son, that young Mikey Jr., he's a fantastic piper. Same as Larry as well, he's a brilliant piper. He can play it through 2 or 3 different ways, and I hope they've got to keep it going.
Who are Irish travellers? Where did you come from and when?
Oh my God, Tommy, have you got a couple of days to sit down there, Tommy, have you?
The clock's ticking.
God, clock on that one. It's a very difficult question to answer, because a lot of people have perceptions of who travellers are. And when we talk about who are Irish travellers, it's a brilliant question, because brilliant insofar as that people are so sure, but sadly they were so wrong, because people had this assumption that travellers came around the time of famine and the 1840s, and in some way existed prior to that as country people, the same as everybody else, and became travellers at that time, which is not true. Travellers have existed in Ireland back as far as history goes, because there's mention of travellers in history so much, it's unbelievable, and we've missed so much of it. And there's evidence of travellers and legislation in the 1600s, the 50s, and 1175 was the first written evidence of travellers. So travellers have existed, and there was a very interesting documentary done quite recently around the DNA called The Blood of Travellers, which I took part in, and they used my blood in it and our DNA, and it showed my mum's DNA being a very, very old DNA and very closed. It didn't mix, and we didn't get a huge amount of matches for it. Actually, it was something like 1 in 500 or something like that, which is quite rare.
So far back did it
that went back. My ancestor and my mum's side in the west of Ireland would have back something like 3,000 years. That is serious, yeah. My dad's DNA would have been very common DNA and would have been shared by a huge amount of men in the west of Ireland. But having said that, travellers, today people get the impression that travellers only came about a short time ago in the 1840s. That's incorrect. And it's quite dangerous insofar as that who we think someone is and our perceptions of somebody makes us think in a certain way about them. And very much so with travellers, because people think that we came through a default system, that we were some way damaged through a famine and damaged country people. Now let us rehabilitate them and re-assimilate them back into mainstream society. And that's a dangerous thing, rather than, which this programme is doing, which I'm really pleased with, is looking at the celebration of culture and celebration of identity, rather than trying to make someone into something that they're not. And I think that's why that question is so important. Who are Irish travellers? And it's a question I don't feel is asked often enough. Now, as I said earlier on, Tommy, to go into detail on that now, you may be prepared to sit for a couple of days on it.
Not at all. That's very interesting. The fact that your lineage can be traced back 3,000 years is absolutely incredible. Irish society has gone through major changes since about the 1950s with technologies and that, and Irish travellers are a wee bit a part of Irish society. And I'm wondering how young travellers are affected by change in society and technology, and has it weakened their self-identity as travellers, or has it strengthened it?
I think there's argument both ways, in a sense. I think that when you look at traveller identity today, and it is an important issue, and it's so important that we actually spend a huge amount of our time in our organisation and looking at the heritage and the reinforcing of the positive image of one's own identity. And I think for travellers today, it's gone more and more important, because if you look at Irish history, let's forget about traveller history for a moment, let's look at Irish history. And you look at Irish history, what happened to the Irish identity, and how a lot of Irish people left this country ashamed of who they were, ashamed of their identity. And that sort of reinforces a whole negative image. And Irish travellers were no different. Irish travellers were oppressed, put down, and made ashamed of who they are. And we carried that. There's no saying we didn't. And we hid the fact that we're travellers. Started not to use our own language until it actually almost died away completely. It affected our music, it affected all aspects of our culture. And today, travellers, more and more travellers are now becoming more and more proud of their own identity. And that's not happening by chance. That's been made happen in a lot of very different ways. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. If you look at and this again links very much into this programme, when you look at some of the music and the musicians and the singers that are out there, and so you hear the likes of the Fureys, you hear the likes of the Dordens, you hear Paddy Keenan. Now they're all
Dunne,
all them fantastic skilled musicians, and how proud they are of who they are. Now that has a huge ripple effect.
The conditions under which Irish traveller Uilleann Pipers played live music has shaped a definitive traveller style which can be traced back to John Cash, travelling piper from Wexford. Cash travelled extensively around Ireland, playing music at open-air events in the mid-19th century. The music had to compete with the noise, distractions and constant movement of people at football matches and horse fairs. If they were to succeed in attracting the attention of passers-by long enough to elicit a financial contribution, the music had to be loud, exciting and performed with virtuosity. The Doran brothers, Johnny and Felix, certainly mastered this craft. Johnny Doran's musical legacy is far-reaching.
My image is of Johnny playing these same bunch of tunes, whatever they were, whether it was 20 or 200, kind of doesn't matter. But he's playing these over and over and over since he was a kid. And I just feel that, okay, he was in the same thing here. How can I change this to make it a bit more interesting for myself? And I think that's where the travelling style came. Well, certainly Johnny's travelling style, I feel, came from just always trying to push the boundaries on any particular tune. And at the same time, it's very definitely that tune. It's not jazz. He's not gone off improvising over a chord structure. He's got a very strong melodic structure that he's sticking really closely to, but he's making the best he can of it. Johnny would have played that. not just that I played it a bit faster, but there's the same, played the same tune for the same length of time and put in far more variations each time around. And I think that's what happened with Johnny. It's like, okay, I just can't keep doing this for the rest of my life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so boring after a while.
It is, no harm to the music around, but it's a simple music, it's simple structure, and these guys just wanted to make fun with it. And his regulator playing, and I wouldn't be a patch on Johnny for regulator playing, it's the same kind of thing. It's some of the syncopated offbeat stuff, and if you hear some of the settled players, got Johnny. As I said, I'm not a patch on him, but you hear that cha-da-dum, cha-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum, cha-da-dum. He's tricking around with stuff, you know, and single finger playing, sticking the thumb or whatever on the single C key on the bass. That kind of stuff. I'm not saying that settled pipers don't do that, but it's the creativeness of doing something like that.
His unique style is fully appreciated by those who recognised his genius. Musicians like Finbar Furey and Paddy Keenan looked to Johnny Dorn for their inspiration, and they in turn became role models for aspiring young pipers since the early 1960s. Their music, by their own admission, is shaped and styled on Dorn's techniques.
I remember going out to Johnny Dorn's grave in Wicklow Town and Felixstowe, and I remember Paddy Keenan playing out there at the grave, and there was a kind of a serenity and a kind of a huge respectfulness that I hadn't seen before. I hadn't seen it even with settled people who play Irish music. I hadn't seen this. You know?
Johnny Keenan's funeral mass on Wednesday the 29th of March 2000 in Longford was a setting for a musical tribute to Keenan by Ireland's leading musicians. But it was the music of Johnny's brothers, Paddy and Thomas, that made a lasting impression on everybody present, including Martin Nolan.
The boys started playing. I'm getting upset. But you could hear the place. It was a slow air on the pipes, and Paddy Keenan was standing beside me, and he said, "My Jesus, listen to that." They just, whatever it wasn't like anybody else would have played. The boys went, and you could just hear the screaming. Oh, and it was like, wow. It was just coming from up in the balcony behind you, and it was unreal. And even a recorder, you'd have to catch it that way. And even then, listening back to it, you just had to be in the room, so to speak, for what that did to you. That moment. It was amazing.
Keenan strikes up like, you know, I mean, he just literally has to plan the drones and the heads will turn. I saw that in 1974. He used to stay with me in Listonvarna, and I remember in the pub one night, the place was packed to the door, packed to the rafters. The Bothy band were in full flight, and Keenan called, and he came into the bar, and he just started up the drones at the back of the bar, and everybody stopped.
The Furey brothers and Davy Arthur, as well as the Bothy band, used the Doran sound to build a fresh, driving, attacking effect that would excite young followers across the world.
When he was on tour with the Bothy band, like he'd call to me in Listonvarna and he'd stay with me, you know. My wife thought the message was very good to him. We used to keep him and look after him, you know. But he was tremendous. But I always felt that they had something that the other musician didn't have. So you had to put your finger on it. I don't understand what it is. I heard Leo there talking about maybe it's the extra bit of speed that they have in the music, particularly the reeds. I think it's more than that. I think it's something that's there from generations back that distinguished them from everybody else. And that's why people stopped up on the street, because there's some incredible pipers at the moment, like absolutely incredible pipers. But there's very few of them can actually do what Furey does now in the pipes, for example.
Doran's playing inspired the young Willie Clancy from Milltown Malby to take up the pipes, and Doran's influence can be clearly heard in Clancy's piping. The Willie Clancy Summer School has been attracting thousands of pipers and other musicians to West Clare for over 40 years. Harry Hughes has been organising the summer school with the late Mauricio Rockine for most of those years.
I learned from Paddy's father, so I got my music from the same source that he got it from. We're in different worlds, me and Paddy. Then that's nothing to do. Well, you see, this is the thing. I would say, and honestly, I'm not as good a piper, and technically not as good a piper. But I was trying to imitate Paddy as well, because he was the living
Link.
because Johnny Dorn was dead by the time I even started playing pipes. So here was a man who could play very like Johnny Dorn, and he's sitting beside me having a pint in the pub and he's playing tunes. So you're trying to get somewhere into that. But the penny dropped on me fairly quick that you'll never think like him. And if you can't think like him, you'll never play like him. You'll imitate him, but you'll never put the nya into a particular note that he put into it. So you kind of have to say, well, this is who I am. What do I want to put into it?
Yeah.
And you're putting into it what they gave you, but you're putting your way of thinking into it. And if you listen to Johnny as well, he has a repertoire, and Paddy would be the same. They have a repertoire of techniques. It's not endless. And I would use this when I'm teaching students. I said, here's this, and here's this. Now, what we're going to do, the first time around, we're going to put this one in here, and we're going to put this one in here. And the second time round, we're going to switch them techniques around. So to use modern terminology now that came in with computers, cut and paste. And if you go back and listen to the lads, they're cutting and pasting. First bar he did an A roll. Second bar he did 3 A taps. Second time round the tune he did the 3 A taps in the first bar, and in the second bar he did the A roll. Simple stuff, and you don't know where he's going next. And I sometimes think, I don't know, because again we're back to this thing, I'm not inside their brains, but I actually don't know.
I'm going to be very honest with you, until I read your own book, Free Spirits, I actually wasn't aware myself of the level and the immense contribution that my people made to Irish traditional music. And as I read the book, as I went through, every page, I got more and more and more proud of what my people have done for Irish traditional music.
So now he's coming into the tune from a different, so instead of going, he's going. So all of us, and so I'd be watching Thomas doing this, and I'd start copying him. Now, as I got more fluent on the tune, and this would be in the same evening, we'd play it and it would get faster and faster. So we could be playing 10 or 15 times around the tune or more, and it would get faster, and so you'd end up, I'm not sure if I can even do it now, I'm getting so... It just get fat, but so you might even make a mistake in the middle.
It was at a very early age, with my father, because once me and Eddie went to Scotland, my father, of course, had no one to take on the road with him, so he jumped on the next best thing, which was Paul.
I was invited by Paul into the inner circle of musicians in O'Donoghue's, and he encouraged me to become a musician myself. It was during that period that I decided to take up the pipes. I was particularly inspired by Keenan's playing, and committed myself to emulating as best I could what even then I perceived to be a traveller's style.
My mammy went to England because all her people was going there to England. Scotland, as a matter of fact, they went first to Scotland, got the boat for the horses and wagons. They went off to Scotland on a boat, ferry over there. And there was no one going to be left to harry. All her friends was going there. So they coaxed her on, nearly come on, they said, what are you going to do here on your own? Come on with us to Scotland. So then...
Did you take the wagon with you to
Oh,
Scotland?
wagons and horses to drive.
And did you live in the wagons over there? For a
Yeah,
while?
travelled over there in the wagons, yeah. And my uncle Paddy, my daddy's brother, Paddy Dunne, he sold the horse and the wagon belonged to my mammy. So then we had to go into houses then. So from the school then I went into a house. I didn't travel that much at all. Mammy never travelled much when she went to England. She settled. We all settled.